Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spiritual Sunshine. Today, we are happy to connect and be connected all the time with everyone, aren't we? Yes, thank you for connecting with us today. It's really beautiful, just the feeling of sunshine that I get from all of you folks. So, thank you so much for your love and support. Today, we are diving into what else? Consciousness. No, I'm kidding. We're already there. We don't have to go anywhere to dive into consciousness. We're already there. And the crazy thing about the light of love that is consciousness is that the more we relax into it, the more love, light, peace, chillness, exuberance, excitement, all the good things we feel. And yes, sometimes the dark side comes up. Sometimes the shadow comes through, at least in our mind. But the beauty of that is it's energy. It's energy. It's still God's energy expressing itself through our minds. Yes, our minds can be distorted, but that sensation, those feelings, that's still energy from the spiritual sun. Everything is empowered from the same energy source, even evil that misuses good, misuses truth, misuses what we call reality to further its ends. But guess who's using it to do something good? Yes, life itself uses the dark side of things to make things better. Crazy enough. Crazy enough. That's why it's prophesied, right? That at the darkest time, what comes? What comes? Well, the light. The sweet light of victory, of peace, of love. It's in our Hopi prophecies, it's in many different indigenous cultures in their prophecies about the end times. From the Hebrew uh, tradition and culture to those in South America that believed that eventually God and gods and goddesses would come back and set things right. Well, guess what? Guess who the gods and goddesses are in the lowercase? That's you and me. As the Bible used the term, we are gods. We are gods. But we're empowered by the wholeness of God. And it's not a big but, actually, because it's not a big but. You're going to have to forgive me. It's not a big but because God is one with us. We like to devoid ourselves. So we make that separation, that BUT, as high and long and everything is possible because we don't want to put ourselves on the same side as God and be accused of, I don't know, you name it, right? That part of your voice must have spoke up at one point in this video, probably, of that inner voice. Oh, no, that's too much, too close to God. But you know who else talked that way? And it's the way we should all talk. Jesus. Jesus talked that way. So remember your red text and maybe even go over it, as I should probably do again, because he said some astounding things about our nature that we haven't internalized. So thank you for coming to know that about yourself eventually and starting to know that now. We're always starting. There's always a greater discovery to be found. But hopefully one day, for ourselves, we can come to a place of peace, whatever the beliefs are, whatever the thoughts. It's knowing that we are in God and God is in us. As Christ said, be in me as I am in you, right? I'm the vine, you're the branches, he also said. The branch that doesn't abide in the vine is what? Thrown into the fire. God's not punishing us in these examples. No, it's just the natural ramification of feeling separate from God. It's a fire. It feels like we're burning. When we think we're separate from life itself, how could we be, right? Every good thing is from God, at least in my opinion, from the universe, from life, whatever you want to call it, right? And do you have any good things going on? Even if, not always in your head, you've got some cells doing some cool work, right? That's a good thing. You've got a lot of cells and even beneficial bacteria and how your brain works and everything about what all these larger structures do, the skull, the fingers, the hands, the elbows, the face. You have all those things and they're good. So guess what? They're from God. Yes. I think so often in religious circles, whatever the faith, this idea of humility becomes so distorted that we start to make ourselves separate and make ourselves feel separate. We're taught that. And we're afraid that if we don't feel that way, we're going to burn, right? But what's it feel like now? What's it feel like now? Often feels like burning. It's unfortunate for a lot of people. Often feels like burning. If you really look at your own experience, the anxiety, the fear, it's not fun. Whatever you want to call it. Maybe not burning. Maybe it's I don't know. It's not a jacuzzi. Maybe a jacuzzi on high. I don't know. It's not just a nice walk in the park all the time. For a lot of us, unfortunately. But we're made to center in that place of life. And that's what we are. And so the less we think about our separateness, or we identify it and say, okay, we start making a little more lightly of it, the less we use that separateness to think, which is another kind of thing where we're thinking about other people in certain ways, when we're thinking about our environment or something in a very disparaging light, when we're so negative about ourselves, about whatever it is, instead of staying present to the spirit, that's separate thinking too. And it's not fun either. So let's each take a moment. As spiritual practice, this is nice because we always have a moment. And we just take that moment, whatever we're doing, could be working, could be talking to someone, could be reading or cooking or cleaning something up, or even when we're getting frustrated or angry, we take that moment to see it, to just notice that we see that happening. We are the piece that's behind all the action because you wouldn't see it. The action you're not behind, you don't see, right? If it's not in your sphere of awareness, you don't see it, obviously. I mean, if you're aware of something, it's something, right? And it's in your awareness. But that part of your awareness that sees it isn't that action, or it's all action. It isn't that war you see on TV, is it? It's also not that thought that you had little control over, right? That came unbidden, like switching the channel accidentally. Most thoughts do, most feelings do. There may be a whole history behind those feelings, yes. But they come from nowhere in a way. They come from in front of us, but they're not us. They're still not really us because what are we? We are that light of God. Why we're called children of God. We are that love and that wisdom which makes the light, heat and light, makes light what it is. A little bit of heat, a little bit of love, I guess. A lot of heat, a lot of love in this example. The greatest heat, well, you're the burning sun of God, when God's not a sun. But symbolically, that works, right? And often all our symbols, we can kind of distill back to that centering idea that God is the source of light and love. All the symbols in ancient history connecting to God often had God as the sun, God is an I, right? Ra, others. Even if someone stood in the place of God, said, I am this being, I'm your God, they often use the iconography of God because they're saying they're God. Often the things we think are so evil, like an eye, you know, an eye in a picture that's just an eye, that's evil, right? But it's been co-opted, just like the Nazi symbol. Many indigenous cultures still today use that symbol. It's not the Nazi swastika. It can symbolize even the sun in ancient Egyptian culture, and many other things in other cultures, right? Crazy. The Nazis were really into the occult. It's true. There's a lot of history that you could read about in connection to that. But really, we should be into these symbols in our own way, not going necessarily to history books, but noticing that our whole existence points to God, points to God. So, yes, we have a dark side, it can come up. We can be really hard on ourselves and on other people. We can be really hard on the world and our leaders, which some may deserve. But we must note, for our own sake, that it all happens in the spaciousness of God's peace. You call it space, even. What's space? It's peace. Allows things to come and go as they will. Whoa, that's like the definition of peace. Heat, cold, light, dark, space holds it all. It's like the universe itself symbolizes something greater, like the openness of love, to let beings be and to try to get them to do better. That's why the vacuum of space isn't a vacuum. It's full of energy, right? According to our quantum physics, so full of energy. That's where we get a lot of the really cool effects in quantum physics and derivatives that we haven't quite leaned into in our culture. But today, it's about the vacuum that is our light as well, our space that allows for light. Today is always about that because God starts with you. I mean, God is God. God's taken care of. What's God concerned about next? Oh, it's these one big beings on some other planet. No, it's each of us. That's God's next concern, and the first one's not a concern, okay? So God's got your back, really. And things will come together perfectly if you let them. Gotta let them. Gotta let yourself come together perfectly. It's cool, it's fun. Give it a try. Peace.